So, as some of you know, I co-host a podcast titled Late Seating. On Late Seating, Jason Harding and I have a lot of fun discussing well-known films and deciding whether they deserve their reputations, whether those reputations are good or bad. Usually we limit ourselves to films that have attained classic status, and for our purposes, classic doesn't necessarily mean good. It just means significant. A movie that, through its success or its failure, has had an impact on the culture. But a few times a year, we relax our usual requirements and we'll do a show reviewing a film that isn't really considered a classic by most people, but which we think would be fun to review anyway. Our latest episode, which drops this Friday, May 11th, is just such a show. We recorded it the day after my birthday, and as a birthday gift to me, we reviewed one of the first movies I ever saw in a movie theater. This movie, He-Man and She-Ra, The Secret of the Sword. Rewatching the movie and subsequently talking about it on the podcast reaffirmed two things about it which I've known for most of my adult life. One, I love it, and two, it's awful. I'm able to love The Secret of the Sword despite the fact that I consider it to be an awful movie because my reasons for loving it have nothing to do with its merit as a film. And that's what I want to talk about. If you want to hear an extended discussion of the content and merits or lack thereof of The Secret of the Sword, listen to the next episode of the Late Seating podcast. In this video right now, I want to talk about why we sometimes love bad art and why that can be okay. You've probably noticed that people can sometimes get a little defensive about art they like. If you love a movie, let's say, and you see someone else disparaging it, you might take it personally. And that's a natural reaction. After all, if someone says that something you love is terrible, they're also saying that you love terrible things, that you have bad taste. And who the hell are they to say you have bad taste? They don't know you! The problem is most of us never question why we love the art that we love. Or why we dislike the art that we dislike, for that matter. We never bother to try and understand why we love it, and we equate our loving it with it being good, even though equating those two things doesn't really make sense. There are all kinds of reasons why we might love a work that have nothing to do with its artistic merit. For example, I love The Secret of the Sword because I associate it with my childhood. I was not yet 5 years old when I first watched it, and at the time, a great deal of my life revolved around He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I watch the movie now as a 38-year-old man, and I can still feel connected to that little boy I used to be, sitting in a movie theater in 1985. The first time I watched an episode of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe as an adult, I was taken aback by how bad it was. I suppose I expected it to be the same as it was when I was a child. And of course it was. But I was different. My taste had evolved and matured. I had a much stronger sense of who I was as a person and of what constituted a good movie or a good TV show to me. I suppose things could have gone one of two ways. I could have latched on to the one or two things about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe that I genuinely thought it did well and amplified them while downplaying the show's many shortcomings and invented a whole bunch of plausible sounding rationalizations and insisted that it was actually a good show. Or I could have done what I ultimately did. Acknowledge that He-Man and the Masters of the Universe no longer fit my definition of good, but I loved it anyway. There are ways to approach and enjoy art other than critically. Critics are often objects of derision, and some critics deserve to be derided for exemplifying the stereotype of a joyless, snobby, impossible-to-please nitpicker. But many critics aren't like that at all. To be a critic, professionally or otherwise, you don't have to be a snob. You just have to love art, and love talking about art, and what you think about it, and how it makes you feel. As someone who aspires to be that kind of a critic, it's important to me to be able to articulate a difference, where such a difference exists, between liking something and thinking something is good. Being able to draw that distinction helps me to be sure that when I judge the quality of a film, for example, I'm not judging it based on things I projected onto it. at least not primarily. It also enables me to give myself permission to like bad art without feeling the need to present a case for why a misfire is actually a misunderstood masterpiece when even I don't actually believe that. Art is subjective. What we consider to be good art or bad art is a matter of taste and opinion. The Godfather isn't objectively a great movie. There's a critical consensus that it's a great movie, but that's not the same thing as an objective fact. You can disagree with that consensus. It doesn't mean you're wrong. You might have an unpopular opinion, but you're not wrong. That's not the way it works. I think Ang Lee's Hulk is a great movie. Most people disagree with me. I don't think they're wrong. I don't think I'm right. It's a matter of opinion. I can't prove that it's a great movie. I can articulate why I think Ang Lee's Hulk is a great movie. I can describe what it makes me think and feel and how it does that and why those things constitute something that fits my conception of what a great movie is. I can't honestly do that for The Secret of the Sword, or even for He-Man in general, although I do love it. And the love I feel for it is in my bones in a way that my love for Hulk and many other better films just isn't. Not everything we love is good. The fact that we love something doesn't make it good, nor does our love for it require us to defend it. That's an important realization to come to, but it's a tough one. Especially when we realize that it applies to things other than art as well.